guys, welcome back to the first take, and we're going left field with this next one. This was a request. Top 10 most controversial topics. Weird, right? Watch Mojo, they kind of do actually have a habit of making interesting, if not random, compilation top 10 videos. So let's check it out and see where this takes the conversation. It's a weird one. Weird one.
Doctors opened his wound and researchers guided a needle, injecting a few drops with 2 million of these wondrous all-purpose cells.
These are the topics that can tear a friendship, relationship, or a good conversation apart.
We want to be the Costco of marijuana.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most controversial topics.
Yes, sir.
For this list, we're exploring the most conflicting subjects that pervade humanity. They may hit close to home, make you angry or uncomfortable, or release your inner activist. But what they won't do is fail to elicit an opinion. The topics we're focusing on are broad, so they encompass tons of additional subtopics. For example, if animal rights were a category, but hunting was not, it would be because animal rights is an umbrella topic that contains hunting. So consider that point if you think you've thought of a subject that we didn't include.
There's something predatorial in the nature of people that we enjoy killing an animal.
Some people enjoy killing.
Number 10. Stem cells.
Scientists hope that stem cells could be used to create a very special kind of personalized medicine, in which we could replace your own body parts with, well, your own body parts.
Yeah. Embryonic stem cells are microscopic miracles. Their potential healing power is limitless, from regenerating limbs and burned skin to reversing the effects of strokes and heart disease.
Cells from those embryos were then turned into other tissues, such as heart cells.
This world of tissue restoration could only be a reality, however, if science had the license to produce them, which would mean the destruction of human embryos. These types of cells can only be retrieved after death, so the raising of any embryo to be slaughtered can be construed as unethical, playing God, or just plain murder.
We know that there are ethical issues involved. We know that there are different laws, locally, nationally, and internationally. And they wanted to provide scientists with a way of negotiating among these different laws and ethical norms.
Is an embryo a human being? And is its sacrifice permissible if it saves the lives of many? These are polarizing questions.
We want to cure paralysis. We want to stop spinal cord injury. How incredible would that be?
Number 9. Drug legalization.
Welcome to Colorado, home of legal marijuana.
Would the control and legalization of drugs make the recreation safer? Or would it create a generation of unmotivated and unhealthy stoners?
I actually go on speaking tour to universities and talk to kids about marijuana.
Oh, really?
Yes, like the most genius. I'm like, you want me to talk about marijuana? We're like, okay. And they pay me to do it. Lock up your kids.
While marijuana is the most prominent drug in this debate, its risk is low because its health effects are minimal. But there are many who see the benefit of legalizing harder drugs as well, both for the economic value and for the eradication of most organized crime.
To begin with, we don't actually eliminate drugs, we drive the market underground. And the underground market for drugs is violent, it's corrupt, it has poor quality control.
Of course, this would come at a price. In the drug debate, it's all about weighing the bad against the good.
The Office of National Drug Control Policy is in better shape than when you found it.
I'm not sure I made the slightest difference. I tried. I really did.
Number 8. Abortion.
Yeah, I need an abortion.
Yeah, this one's
16. I'm gonna say it's been about 2 months and 4 days since the sex. Mind you, that's just like a guesstimation.
It may be the most famous of the ethical debates.
Would you like to have a whole lot of people standing out here showing you that picture to make you more frightened?
If people were forcing that on me, I would want it exposed.
Nobody is forcing anything on anybody. That is completely inaccurate.
The killing of a fetus for no lawful reason just leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. But, just like the stem cell topic, if a fetus is not developed, does not have a brain, is not conscious, or is not self-aware, should it be considered a person?
People just don't think about the life that's inside of you or the person that doesn't have voice.
And if it's destroyed without ever knowing it was alive, can the act really be considered murder?
I think women should be able to make their own decisions about their own lives in their own bodies. And I trust women to make decisions for themselves.
It's like the fallen tree in the forest problem,
Crazy.
only with more serious consequences.
87% of counties in the U.S. now have no abortion clinic. In 5 states, there's only 1 clinic. As many as 240,000 women in Texas have already attempted to end a pregnancy on their own. Did we just travel back in time like 100 years, back when 5,000 women died every year as a direct result of abortion being illegal?
Number 7, gun control.
If more guns made people safer, then America would be one of the safest countries in the world. It isn't. It's the opposite.
With gun violence and mass shootings at an all-time high in the United States, where guns and the right to own them are considered sacred, it's no wonder this topic is so contentious.
I think the only way my mind has been changed is maybe that until nobody has guns, everybody has to have them.
As a Second Amendment right, bearing arms is as quintessentially American as burgers and apple pie. But when it results in an inordinate number of violent deaths and people who are afraid to leave their homes, it changes the scope and gravity of the issue.
There have been 85,000 gun deaths in this country just since Sandy Hook.
Should guns be outlawed? Would it make America safer?
Problem
or
is,
would the illegal market boom in their absence? And would it
in
deter
America,
lunatics? Or does crazy always
specific.
find a way?
I am strongly supportive of doing away what we call the gun show loophole, which means that you can avoid the instant background check.
Number 6, immigration.
If you look, we've spent last year $113 billion on illegal immigrants. We have to do something about it, and we have to start by building a wall, a big, beautiful, powerful wall.
In light of the Syrian refugee crisis and the collective Western uneasiness towards Muslims, the topic of immigration is as serious and relevant as ever in the 21st century.
Unless you're one of the first Americans, a Native American, you came from someplace else.
True.
Somebody brought you.
With throngs of displaced foreigners seeking refuge in countries they perceive as utopic, the world is at odds on how to remedy this.
Billions of dollars have been spent to completely seal off the 3,000-kilometer border. But hundreds of thousands of illegal border crossings take place each year despite all the investments.
On the one hand, there's the idea that a benevolent nation should reach out to help those who desperately need it. But on the other hand, a practical nation should put the safety of its citizens first and shield them from potential danger. It's hard to unwaveringly stand on either side of the debate, although some people have less trouble than others.
I believe that we have got to pass comprehensive immigration reform, something that I strongly supported.
Number 5,
countries,
LGBT rights.
The fact is, in 31 states, people are at risk of being fired, evicted, or refused service just because they're gay.
From marriage equality to gender reassignment surgery, this category certainly runs the gamut of controversial topics.
If homosexuals are allowed their civil rights, then so would prostitutes or thieves or anyone else.
Since much of Western culture has accepted gay marriage, and most basic rights of LGBs are secure, it's the transgender community that's seeking society's acceptance these days.
You were afraid to walk outside because people would see a pregnant man.
I didn't want to leave the house.
While many believe that biology dictates a person's gender, some regard it as an identity, just as one views his or her sexual preference.
The idea of male and female is far more complicated than what we were taught at GCSE biology.
I think some
Wherever
people
and
abuse
however
that
this debate resolves, it will be a bumpy ride getting there,
to the point
as
that
some
they make
view
you
the
more
current line
creative.
between mental illness and personal choice as extremely thin.
There's a lot of hate and a lot of danger.
It's very common to feel like you're not accepted, you know? Especially if you're trying to date or you're trying to put yourself out there.
Number 4, race relations.
So why can't you play together if you have different color skin?
Because your mom might not want you to play with that friend.
Unless you walk a mile in a person's shoes, or skin in this instance, you cannot understand him or her.
Heißen Sie da?
Zurück nach Afrika.
Warum soll ich denn nach Afrika gehen?
That seems to be the philosophy binding all ethnicities, and any person of a differing race who attempts this comprehension is deemed a racist. In
That's
the midst
stupid.
of this issue are the highly controversial buzzwords guilt and privilege, which have been applied very liberally in recent years.
I never really knew what was or wasn't part of the privilege. I just knew that I was a lucky person.
Should a person be guilty for what he or she can't control?
hate
And
that
should
term,
he or
that
she be part of the blame for
privilege.
his or her racist transgressions?
Whatever the
President doesn't want us to march
association
today.
is just annoying.
The courts don't want us to march. But we must march. We must stand up. We must make a massive demonstration of our moral certainty.
It's hard to know, and even harder to talk about.
We shouldn't be complacent about the very real existence of problems out there, but we shouldn't despair and think nothing's changed.
Number 3, the death penalty.
Austin Myers had another shot today. He asked the judge to spare his life. Last week, a Warren County jury recommended death for the 19-year-old.
Who can decide if a person should die? That's the question surrounding this long-standing debate on the morality of the death penalty.
I believe in the death penalty, and we had the death penalty here for years now in California. People try to reverse it all the time. I was all for it.
Some take an eye for an eye approach on crime. Others believe that life in prison is a far more suitable punishment. While a substantial percentage thinks that only God should decide
There's a
who lives
video.
and who dies.
The Californians have become
No,
increasingly
DNA.
divided over capital punishment. Almost
video
half of the electorate opposes
showing
it,
that
while the
person
other
doing
half is in support of
that
it.
horrific Considering that 31 U.S.
then
states have the
I could
death
probably get on
penalty, and 19 do not, almost half of which abolished it in the last
There isn't
10
that
years,
level of
the
evidence.
debate is becoming much more
Too many
even-sided.
innocent
Maybe
people.
death is a gift. You wonder.
Number 2, politics.
We have picked ourselves up.
Okay,
We
yeah.
have fought our way back.
Definitely
And
clash
we
with my
know
friends
in our
about this
hearts
one.
that for the United States of America, the best is yet to come.
My
Every
opinions
topic on this list can
like
fall
a
under the
pendulum.
umbrella of politics in one way or
They go
another.
very
It's
extreme
the
from
government.
one end to the
it
next.
controls the world. It can control media, and within reason, it controls you. Any change can have a profound effect on your quality of life.
You know, look, I mean, we've really done well. I've spent a lot of time in Iowa. I love the people of Iowa. We're doing great with the evangelicals, Sean. We're doing great with the Tea Party, and I think we're going to do really well in Iowa. We look forward to it.
Your own political ideologies are
He's
always at odds
shady,
with
though.
someone else's, as people seem to be pigeonholed into the right or left wing.
They call me Vito Corleone because I veto 2,500 separate line items in the budget.
Believing in one thing instead of another can land you on either side of the spectrum, and can occur entirely without your knowledge. What about the issue of whether the church and the state should be separate? Politics is a debate you have no choice participating in.
Wait a minute. You're hearing about it all the time in the news, right? The
Businesses
fight
that
about having the
pay
10 Commandments in a courtroom or whether or not kids
politicians.
should be praying to Obama. The separation of church and state is one of the hallmarks of American freedom. Here's the problem. Misconception.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here
Religion
are some
shouldn't be
honorable
called
mentions.
Doctors know which side of the white coat they want to stay
Businesses
on.
shouldn't either.
And nobody wants to be a medical basket case at the end of their life, particularly medical people.
They're getting their sex education from the internet, from each other, which is not accurate information. We need to get the experts to teach them correctly.
That's nuts. They can't even teach sex ed in some schools. This is the
Prop
shit
35
right now.
was really scary for sex workers, and a lot of us came out of the woodwork to work on it because it required that if we were arrested, we would have to register as sex offenders in our neighborhoods, which is really crazy for anybody who wants to rent a home
for some
or get a
people,
job
but I
or
reckon
foster a
not something
child
that's
or
ever
keep
gonna
the child
disappear.
that they currently have.
Only in a society protected by modern medicine and the technologies and pharmaceuticals that have stopped so many illnesses has the arrogance to reject what science, modernity, and medicine have done.
Number 1, religion.
In the name of Allah, the terrorist group ISIS sends a message for the world to hear.
Religion, or lack thereof, determines how a person lives his or her life,
Just believe if you don't believe in God, then where's your moral barometer?
and potentially how they'll
That's
spend
dumb.
their afterlife. There is no doubt that this is a touchy subject.
If you're led to believe that they're ghosts, at first that seems quite reasonable to you, but after you start thinking about it skeptically,
You go, that's probably a guy with a handkerchief on a stick.
The threat of infringing upon one's eternal happiness can turn a sane person mad.
When I've seen what I've seen, I know there's a God. You can't change my mind. Nobody can change my mind.
Since the first hominid prayed to an unknown force thousands of years ago, the number of lives lost from wars, genocides, crusades, and sacrifices has been astronomical. And religion has been a catalyst for many of these.
20% of young men lose their religious identity while in the army. That's not a percentage which the Haredi world would be willing to tolerate.
There are few decisions made without the influence of religion. Like it or not, spirituality and religious involvement are as much a part of humanity as bipedalism, and we must contend with their discrepancy.
We don't push our beliefs on people, but we do make them available.
You ever had a Muslim person?
Yes, oh, definitely.
Do you agree with our list? What do you think is the most controversial topic? For more debatable top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
I'm gonna jet.
You're leaving?
This side sucks. I'm gonna try my luck over there.
Are you kidding me?
Tater.
That was thought-provoking, but at the same time a little frustrating because you want to start talking about each little subject, but then the next one comes and you just kind of get swept into that. So there were so many points I wanted to raise with each one, but to be honest, it comes down to, like I said during the video, is that if these are all things you can't speak about with your friends or the person you're with, your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, and you need to get the fuck away from those people, man. You need to be able to openly speak, even if it is a little, even if you don't necessarily end up on having the same perspective on it, you still need to be able to talk about this shit with the people in your life. Because if that in itself is a subject, I guess, the inability to reason, the inability to intellectually debate and understand. So I think that's part of the problem with a lot of these issues and why it kind of flares up and becomes a violent altercations with a lot of this shit, is that not enough people are reasonably talking. Like when people claim to get into a discussion about it, religion is a good example, because I've got a lot of friends who are from all different backgrounds. I've got friends who are Muslims, I've got friends who are Christians. So whenever the conversation does swing into a religious, and I've got friends that are atheists, obviously. When I get into conversations that get into a religious, the topic, times where it gets frustrating, where I just don't even want to engage, is when you can see that the person arguing their point is literally doing that. They're not interested in kind of talking and debating. It's not really about that. For them, they have their opinion, they want to drill it into you, and even if you kind of counter it in any way, they get angry with no real logical reason for it. They just, if you don't agree, you're wrong, even if you present evidence, and that can be associated to any of these. That is the problem. When you have your opinion, you don't and when people don't want to openly really, they have their opinion, but they want to stick to it. They don't want to really engage and to debate or even understand the other person's perspective. That's it. You want to if you can't conversate with the intention of understanding, you don't have to necessarily agree, but just to understand. If that's where the problems come. People just want to have their side, don't want to, and then willing to. I don't know. It can get frustrating. But yeah, that was actually pretty good. I like that. That was actually, and inevitably a lot of you are gonna disagree or agree with a lot of. I'm actually interested to see what the debate is on this. Religion definitely should be number one, because the most people die. Millions, if not billions, of people have died in the name of their god or gods. It has to be the number one reason for most wars. Well, maybe. Yeah, it's one of this. The thing is, like, if it brings you comfort in your life, I would never tell anyone what to believe or not to believe something, even if I don't believe it myself. Like I said, it just kind of gets crazier or frustrating when they have an inability to take on counter arguments. You don't have to believe it, but just to even hear it where it makes them so angry, that's blind, that's that blindness. That sort of la 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 la, not listening. Like, what sort of person are you if you can't even hear another opinion? You know, it's Let me know, guys, your opinions on each of these. Real curious to know what the discussion is. Right, comments down below. You like the video, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I am Ed Reese, and this has been my first take to Watch Mojo's intriguing top 10 most controversial topics. Later, guys.